Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today, wherever you are in this great world. We're gonna talk about XRP. I gotta start with this. Industry calls for a UK stablecoin strategy. Building on the Chancellor's recent Mansion House and Leeds reform speeches and her stated commitment to advancing blockchain, tokenized securities, and stablecoins. The letter Seizing the Stablecoin Advantage, a national strategy for the UK, outlines the opportunity for the UK to position stablecoins as core digital financial infrastructure, capture economic, strategic, and technological benefits from this rapidly advancing market, strengthen the UK's global competitiveness in financial services, support the government's overreaching objective of economic growth. So now, if they get stablecoin regulations in the UK, will they push away from a central bank digital currency? Will they go more towards a stable coin like we have here in the United States? You know, the only difference between a central bank digital currency and a stable coin is who issues it. Here in the US, if the Fed issues it, it's a central bank digital currency. If Ripple issues it, it's a stable coin. That's the only difference. But I want to see what happens next in the UK. Plus, this also opens up for Ripple to launch a stablecoin in the UK as well. Breaking: SEC just accepted filing for the Defiance Leverage Long Plus Income XRP ETF by Title Trust. It's one filing after another for an XRP ETF. You know, there is no way BlackRock does not capitalize on this. And $100 trillion by 2032 to 2034. $96 trillion of wealth that's going to be created. Largest wealth generational event in all of human history. Take a listen to Raoul here.
By my work, we're a $4 trillion economy today in crypto. If we extrapolate trend rate of growth and assume the network growth slows over time, I think we get to 100 trillion by 2032, 2034. 100 trillion. That means there's 96 trillion of wealth that's going to get created. So halve me, and I say this all the time for being an utter moron, $46 trillion of wealth is about to be created. It's the largest wealth generation event in all human history. It's fractionalizable to a rice worker in the Philippines as it is to somebody in Fifth Avenue. It is an unbelievable opportunity. And to go back to it, you're front running the institutions and you get to do all of this.
Listen, I could not agree with you more. And, you know, when it comes to macro financial analysis, you are the king. And I would never question your work on this one.
You can call me a moron. You have many times.
But here's the thing. I've actually never called you a moron, right? Like, and I never will call you a moron. But what I will say, and I think this is super important, is this is really a misunderstood evolution. It will continue to be for quite some time. But this is bigger than social. This is bigger than mobile.
It's the internet being redone for all of us to participate.
The internet is absorbing value and the movement of value in a way that is never had before. And that is the most simplistic way to look at it. And, you know, if journalists want to fixate on Fartcoin, that's fine. It's just a small segment of it. Like, you're missing what stable coins are really doing. You're missing what Bitcoin's real purpose is. You're missing what these DeFi protocols are actually delivering on. And like, that's fine. Focus on Fartcoin. That like, it does not matter to me, right? Like, all I could continue to do with the team at MoonPay is build against the trend line that you and I are talking against. And like, that's why like I'm absolutely so incredibly bullish and excited over this next year. And so it's such a hard question to ask me, because like I wake up every day and I'm so pumped to just go to work and build.
You know, if $100 trillion is going to come into this space. It's going to happen before 2032 to 2034. Remember, the World Economic Forum is calling for $867 trillion in tokenized assets by 2030. Every single year, we're going to see more and more value in this space. And take notice, they always have to try to sneak Bitcoin in there as having some sort of use case. Bitcoin is going to become a tokenized asset running over all these other networks. It's going to be utilized over all these other networks. BlackRock's most likely going to front run that. They're going to want to start with the Bitcoin ETFs. They're going to tokenize all of them at some point. But when you look at how big this actually is, it's bigger than social media, bigger than mobile, and bigger than the internet. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I cannot stress that enough. You know, everybody bitches and complains, today's a red day, why is XRP not moving? You're holding the future. What's going on in the background is they are building out everything. I'm talking everything that we need for tokenization, for custody, for cross-border payments, domestic payments, micropayments, moving value from one person to another, moving value from one country to another. This is all being built while everybody else is so focused on the price today. And that's why a lot of people, they'll be shaken out before we ever see the high price points on XRP. South Korean investors are transferring and buying XRP. So they're talking about a $68 million transfer that happened, 23 million XRP. They're saying that this was moved to buy the dip possibly on XRP since the price has gone down to $3. But when is that purchase going to be made? Because that $68 million could definitely move the price of XRP. Or is this just speculation? Because everybody always sees these transfers happen. They don't really know where it came from, where it's going, you know, and yet right away they have an idea of what's happening in the background. This could be utilized and for ODL. We really don't know. So instead of speculating on this, why don't we wait and see what happens with the price of XRP over the coming days? And they have to lock some of these wackos in an orange padded room when they find out. Grown men and women will weep. It was never Bitcoin. It was always XRP. Take a listen to this nonsense right here.
I think it's important also to note that BlackRock is a good one to look at. Is they have the Bitcoin ETF and the Ethereum ETF, and that you could see that the story of Bitcoin is easy. It's a powerful story. There's no story for Ethereum. What is it? Right. Why? Like, there's no story for any of the other currencies, the coins out there. You know, BlackRock actually just recently said they're not going to offer a Solana or one of the other coins. I don't know. But they're not going to be, or XRP. They're not going to be offering, you know, ETFs for any of those. They're going to stick with, they're sticking with a Bitcoin one, especially. Even Coinbase, right? Like, so they keep on putting out these amazing Bitcoin commercials. They never do a commercial about XRP or any of the other tokens that they actually push if you sign up for them. Like, it's like pushing the other tokens because the exchanges make money on that, right? But they, the story, the narrative is only in Bitcoin. So
the reason that it's like that is because the mainstream wants to keep everyone distracted while the disruption happens behind the scenes. I'm telling you now, when BlackRock files for that spot XRP ETF, a lot of these Bitcoin maxis are going to be crying themselves to sleep because they don't understand that it's not Bitcoin. The future is not Bitcoin, and they just don't get it yet. And the reason that they don't get it is because they made money in Bitcoin. So that's all they see. They can never see past it. And why the hell would a cryptocurrency run on a story? Why do you need a story behind it? You have Michael Saylor saying that it was dropped down by aliens from outer space and it runs on cosmic energy. It's a cryptocurrency just like every other cryptocurrency out there. What happened over time is they separated Bitcoin from the rest of the crypto market. That didn't strengthen Bitcoin. If anything, it weakened it because it's not something special. Swift will crumble under the weight of its own legacy. It's an old broken system that cannot be completely fixed. No updates can help. Take a listen to what Charles Hoskinson from Cardano has to say.
Ultimately, the interoperability is going to have to be there, and I think Swift is going to die, and these other large systems are going to die. They just can't sustain themselves. There's too many downsides. There's too much legacy complexity, and at the end of the day, there's an enormous amount of trust and lack of consumer protection. If nobody believes me, and the bankers are like, "Oh," well, then go to your bank and try to send a wire. You notice how many times they try to talk you out of sending a wire? And how many disclosure forms you have to file? Well, there's wire fraud. Have you checked your account?
It's just terrible system.
Exactly. So let me get this straight. I can use like multi-sig and ledger devices and all these things to have tons of security, and it's super easy for any consumer to do that. But you could be a multi-billion-dollar financial institution, and you have to put in all these bells and whistles, and even still you have some guy call you after you've sent a wire saying, did you really send that wire? I need to know everything about the transaction to verify that's a wire, else we're going to put a freeze on it. That's just a broken system, and it can't survive when its competitor is just tap your phone with trusted hardware in your Google phone or your iPhone, and you just use your fingerprint. We know it's you.
And that's why Swift has no future. I've been saying it for a while now. All of their customers, they're not happy customers. Imagine if you had to send $1 million from, say, the United States to the EU, and it takes 3 days for that money to get there. And during that time, you're hoping it shows up on the other end. I mean, just imagine the stress that people that have to do that every single day. Imagine the stress they go through every single day. Now, you have an alternative in RippleNet utilizing XRP, which can make that transaction happen while you're still on the phone with the person on the other end. That's the difference. That's why you're holding the future, and that's why Swift will eventually be something of the past. For years before, Dom Kwok and Phil Kwok showed up, the XRP community was served up a constant plate of negativity by a bunch of malcontent builders whining about what they've wrongly perceived as XRP ledger development problems. Take a listen to this about the strength of the XRP ledger.
Blockchains like Ethereum came out and really started to get traction. A lot of people said, hey, the XRP ledger is falling behind. Like, why does it still not have smart contracts? But David and the rest of the team really stuck to their guns, and they're like, no, this is the way that it needs to be built. And especially maybe even if we go back maybe 2 years or so, a lot of people are like, oh, that was the wrong decision because it meant that fewer developers were coming. But I think flash forward a couple of years, what we're realizing today is that actually, if you look at all of the hacks that have happened in other ecosystems that have smart contracts, and these hacks don't just happen like once a year, they're happening multiple times every month, like really, really big ones. That is where actually I think that the ecosystem has done really, really well to say, actually, we're going to have a couple of fixed functions. And when you use these are battle tested, they're hardened, they're very, very well audited, and they're pretty much rock solid. So I think that is very, very different to other ecosystems. And I think that a lot of the institutions as well are paying attention to that, because I am a developer myself. I'm an engineer. I've built on the XRP ledger. I've built and deployed onto mainnet. And it is a completely different experience. It is like, as long as you have got the stuff set up correctly, it just works it just works really, really well. And obviously, Dom could talk a bit about the community as well around that. But I think from my perspective, it just means that as an institution, you can bring on board your team, bring on board your engineering team without them having to line like a totally new stack.
And that's why institutions will choose the XRP ledger over other networks. And that's why the XRP ledger didn't have smart contracts for a long period of time. And even David Schwartz said it would make cross-border payments slower and more expensive. They already had this planned out years ago. But here we are now in 2025, and project after project is onboarding to the XRP ledger. Why? Because it's safe and it's battle tested. Crypto expert reveals why Ripple's XRP didn't fail years ago. So he's citing the support from the XRP army buying up XRP. He's saying that Ripple would have never survived without selling XRP to all of us. And I agree with that. But we were never really supposed to be Ripple's customers to begin with. And it's a good thing that we became Ripple's customers because it gave us a chance to buy a cryptocurrency that can lead us to financial freedom. And no matter how you try to spin it, there's nothing out there that's going to give you the return on investment that XRP is going to give you in this run. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be the biggest shocker during alt season. Look at all those ETFs. That tells the story of where we're going from here. And this comes from IBM, and I wanted to mention this because I know a lot of you know I'm a huge UFC fan. So IBM, together with UFC, we're using AI to scale content creation for over 700 million fans around the world. See how the UFC Insights engine built with IBM Watson X is transforming their content workflow, empowering employees, and delivering knockout results. I really like the idea of this because I would love to see UFC come to the XRP ledger. I would love to see the UFC partner with Ripple. If that ever happens, I'm telling you right now, that will be the greatest thing ever. But they are working with VeChain as well. But I like what they're doing with IBM. I always told you, IBM, they are part of the new financial system. They've been building out in the background as well, working with Ripple, working with Stellar, working with Hedera, working with others. You know, what we're going to finally see soon is the final product, the new financial system. And it's going to be a handful of cryptocurrencies working side by side. The only people fighting are retail investors. My coin's better than your coin, blah, blah, blah. Behind the scenes, you know, Brad and Charles from over there at Cardano are coming together. Lehman Baird is working with Cardano, working with Ripple. These networks, they're joining together and they're collaborating together because they're building everything that's needed to replace Swift. And Swift is on borrowed time. And the only thing that's going to save Link in the future is Ripple. But until it all happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.